Think that dime in your pocket is just 10 cents? Think again. Some Roosevelt dimes hiding in everyday change are worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. It's all about rare mint errors and tiny details collectors go crazy for. So before you spend it, grab a magnifying glass. That little dime could be your next big discovery. The 1996 Roosevelt dime might seem like one of those common coins you see every day and don't think twice about. But for collectors, this small silver-colored coin has become a symbol of hidden fortune. At first glance, it looks like just another 10-cent piece, minted by the billions and used in vending machines and grocery stores all over the country. But behind its ordinary appearance, a few special 1996 dimes contain rare minting errors that have turned them into extraordinary treasures. Some of these coins have sold for staggering amounts at major auctions, with prices ranging from $55,000 to an unbelievable $140,000, depending on their condition and rarity. Imagine holding a single dime that could change your financial future. That's the magic of the 1996 era dimes. The Roosevelt dime, featuring the portrait of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, was first introduced in 1946 to honor his legacy and leadership. By 1996, the design had already become an American classic, showing Roosevelt's left-facing profile on the obverse and the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse, representing liberty, peace, and strength. The U.S. Mint struck over 2 billion dimes that year across Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. But even in that sea of mass production, a few mistakes made their way into circulation, creating coins that collectors now consider hidden gems. One of the most sought-after errors from 1996 is the double die obverse error. This happens when the die that strikes the coin is accidentally engraved twice but slightly misaligned between strikes. On some 1996 Roosevelt dimes, you can clearly see doubling in the inscriptions, "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and sometimes even the date. These details look like faint shadows or ghostly outlines, and the more prominent the doubling, the higher the coin's value. At a Heritage Auctions event, one of these 1996 double die dimes in mint state condition sold for an astonishing $81,000, while another with slightly less visible doubling went for $68,000. For collectors, these coins are like works of art, where even an unintentional imperfection adds beauty and value. Another fascinating error from 1996 is the off-center strike. This occurs when the planchet, the blank metal disc used to make the coin, is not properly aligned during the striking process. As a result, part of the design is missing or shifted to one side. Depending on how dramatic the misalignment is, the coin's value can skyrocket. A 1996 dime struck about 60% off-center but still showing a full date was sold at Stack's Bowers for $75,500. Another, with an even more eye-catching 75% off-center strike, fetched $88,000 at a Great Collections auction. These coins are visually stunning, as they give a glimpse into the minting process gone wrong, and collectors are willing to pay big money for that rare glimpse. There's also the wrong planchet error, one of the rarest types of mistakes the U.S. Mint can produce. It happens when a coin is accidentally struck on a blank meant for another denomination. A few 1996 dimes were discovered struck on cent planchets, meaning they were created using copper-colored blanks meant for pennies. These coins are smaller in size and have a reddish tone rather than the usual silver color. One example was auctioned for a jaw-dropping $93,000 at Heritage Auctions, while another, slightly off-struck but with sharp details, sold for $101,000. The combination of wrong metal, unusual color, and clear strike makes these coins highly desirable. Then there are the broad strike errors, where the coin expands beyond its normal circular border because the collar that holds it in place during minting malfunctions. A broad-struck 1996 dime looks wider and flatter than usual, often with softer edges. One such dime in excellent condition sold for $61,500 at a Heritage auction, while another, perfectly preserved with full luster, sold for over $70,000 at Stack's Bowers. These coins are especially interesting because they illustrate how precision at the mint can be disrupted by the smallest mechanical error, resulting in something truly collectible. Another rare and valuable 1996 dime error involves the double strike. This happens when a coin is struck twice, either fully or partially, creating a layered image or a shifted design. A 1996 Roosevelt dime showing a clear double strike with the second strike rotated about 20 degrees sold for $95,200, while another one, with the second strike overlapping the word Liberty, fetched $84,000. The visual impact of these coins is stunning. The doubled features make them appear almost surreal, like a shadow of history frozen in metal. Point one, particularly fascinating and visually striking type of error seen in some 1996 dimes is the missing clad layer error. Modern dimes are made from a copper core sandwiched between two layers of nickel. Occasionally, one of those outer nickel layers is missing, leaving one side of the coin copper-colored. These coins are instantly recognizable because of the color contrast. One side looks like a typical silver dime, while the other reveals the reddish copper underneath. A 1996 dime missing its clad layer on one side sold for $64,800, while another missing it on both sides, leaving a full copper appearance, brought in $79,000. These coins are extremely rare because they can only happen if the blank metal disc is improperly layered before minting, making them a minting fluke worth thousands. Another exciting variety from 1996 is the die cap error, one of the most dramatic types of minting mistakes ever seen. This happens when a newly struck coin sticks to the die and continues striking more coins, forming a cap that distorts the design with each additional strike. The resulting coin looks almost like a tiny metal cup, with one side deeply concave and the other heavily distorted. A 1996 die cap Roosevelt dime sold for an astounding $122,000 at a Heritage Auctions event. Another example, slightly smaller but equally impressive, sold for $115,000. These are the kinds of coins that grab everyone's attention because they look like something out of a science fiction story. Completely deformed yet undeniably authentic. Point one of the lesser-known but still highly collectible errors from 1996 involves die cracks and cuds. These appear when parts of the coin die start to break or crack during minting, leaving raised lines or blobs on the coin. While they might look like random imperfections, they're actually indicators of wear and tear on minting equipment and are highly sought after when pronounced. A 1996 dime with a large die cud near the rim sold for $58,400, and another featuring multiple die cracks across Roosevelt's face and neck fetched $63,000. These imperfections are subtle but carry great historical and mechanical significance. When it comes to auction records, the 1996 Roosevelt dime has seen some incredible moments. One of the most talked about sales happened at Heritage Auctions, where a 1996 off-metal dime struck on a cent planchet went for $101,000 after a fierce bidding war. Another highlight came from Stack's Bowers, where a double die obverse example in pristine MS-68 condition sold for $81,000. And perhaps one of the most exciting finds was a 1996 dime missing its clad layer, which surprised everyone by reaching a sale price of $79,000. These events prove that even a dime, one of the smallest and most overlooked coins, can make massive waves in the world of numismatics. Collectors love the thrill of the hunt. Stories circulate online of people finding 1996 error dimes in old change jars or tucked away in drawers for decades. One man from Illinois reportedly found a silver-colored dime that felt lighter than usual and decided to have it appraised. It turned out to be an off-metal error, and it sold at auction for over $90,000. Another collector in California came across a 1996 dime with an obvious double strike while sorting through a coin roll purchased from a bank. That coin later sold for $76,000. These real-life discoveries remind us that valuable treasures can still be hiding in plain sight. The beauty of the 1996 Roosevelt dime lies not just in its design but in the incredible rarity of its mistakes. Every error tells a story of a moment at the U.S. Mint where machinery slipped, pressure misaligned, or materials mismatched, leaving behind a tiny metal witness to human imperfection. For collectors, these flaws aren't just mistakes. They're opportunities, pieces of history, and symbols of chance. The 2010 Roosevelt dime is one of those coins most people wouldn't think twice about. Small, silver-colored, and weighing just over 2 grams, it slips through our hands every day at grocery stores, gas stations, and coffee shops. Yet, few realize that among the millions of 2010 dimes struck by the U.S. Mint, there exist a handful of extraordinary errors, coins that tell a story of minting mishaps and remarkable rarity. These tiny mistakes, often unnoticed by the untrained eye, have become some of the most sought-after collectibles in modern coin history. Some examples have shocked the numismatic world by fetching prices between $40,000 and $98,000 at high-profile auctions, proving that even a 10-cent coin can turn into a life-changing discovery. To understand why these era coins are so valuable, we have to look at how a modern dime is made. Each Roosevelt dime begins as a copper-nickel planchet that passes through the mint's complex machinery. In 2010, the Philadelphia and Denver mints produced hundreds of millions of these coins. The process was supposed to be flawless, dies striking clean, centered designs, presses running smoothly at high speed. But as every collector knows, perfection is an illusion. Somewhere along those production lines, a few dimes came out unlike any others, bearing strange distortions, misalignments, or wrong metal compositions that would transform them from everyday change into precious rarities. One of the most remarkable 2010 Roosevelt dime errors ever discovered is the off-metal strike. In this rare event, the coin is accidentally struck on a planchet meant for another denomination, such as a penny or foreign coin. A known 2010 dime struck on a copper planchet designed for a Lincoln cent was authenticated by PCGS and auctioned by Stack's Bowers in 2021. The coin appeared reddish in color, with full Roosevelt details but the distinct copper tone of a penny. This unique piece stunned bidders, eventually selling for $86,200. Another similar specimen surfaced later, sold privately for $91,000, showing just how powerful the demand for these accidental masterpieces has become. Another error variety that keeps collectors on edge is the double die obverse. This occurs when the die used to stamp the coin shifts slightly between impressions, causing the design to appear doubled. On some 2010 dimes, the doubling can be clearly seen in Roosevelt's eye, the word liberty, and the motto "In God We Trust." Under magnification, the details appear almost ghostly, as if the design was stamped twice in perfect misalignment. A superb example of this type, graded MS68 by NGC, fetched $42,400 at a Great Collections auction, while another specimen with bolder doubling brought an impressive $58,000 at Heritage Auctions in 2022. Among the most visually striking 2010 dime errors are the off-center strikes. When the blank planchet isn't correctly seated in the press, the resulting strike lands off target, leaving part of the design missing and a blank crescent visible. The degree of off-center striking dramatically influences the value. Coins with 20% to 60% misalignment and visible dates are the most desirable. In one notable auction, a 2010 Roosevelt dime struck 45% off-center with a fully visible date, sold for $61,700. Another with an even more extreme 65% off-center strike reached $72,900 at a Stack's Bowers auction, largely because the coin retained a stunning luster and was in nearly mint-state condition. A fascinating and lesser-known type of 2010 dime error involves the missing clad layer. Roosevelt dimes are composed of an inner copper core sandwiched between two outer layers of cupronickel. Sometimes, due to bonding failures during planchet creation, one of these outer layers doesn't adhere properly. The result is a coin that appears copper on one side and silver on the other, an incredible two-tone look that instantly draws attention. A 2010 dime missing its reverse-clad layer, revealing a bright copper surface, sold for $49,600 in 2020. Another, missing its clad layer on both sides, shattered expectations by reaching $65,000 the following year. These coins vividly demonstrate how a minting imperfection can create accidental beauty. Broad strike and die cap errors from 2010 have also become favorites among collectors. A broad strike occurs when the collar, the circular device that holds the planchet during striking, fails to function properly. The coin expands outward, resulting in a slightly larger diameter and distorted rim. A 2010 Roosevelt dime with a full broad strike and no visible rim lines sold for $12,300 at Heritage Auctions. Meanwhile, an extremely rare die cap error, where a coin sticks to the die and repeatedly strikes subsequent planchets, creating a cupped or mushroom shape, was discovered in 2019 and auctioned for $23,600. Though not as high in value as off-metal errors, these pieces are prized for their dramatic and one-of-a-kind appearances. The 2010 series also features intriguing strike-through errors. These occur when debris, grease, or foreign material gets trapped between the die and the planchet during striking. In one notable example, a dime showed a partial strike-through from a piece of wire that left a deep indentation running across Roosevelt's face. Despite the damage, collectors loved its uniqueness, and it sold for $11,000. Another strike-through involving a piece of cloth that left a fabric-like texture on the reverse fetched $14,500. These unpredictable errors serve as a reminder that every coin has its own story, some written by the mint itself, others by the accidents of production. There's also the fascinating world of die clashes. When the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, the designs imprint faintly on each other. On certain 2010 dimes, you can see ghostly outlines of the torch and branches behind Roosevelt's neck, an eerie visual effect that collectors love. A particularly clear die clash example graded MS-67 sold for $19,800, while another with a slightly lighter impression fetched $17,400. These coins demonstrate how even invisible moments at the mint can leave permanent, valuable marks on history. Collectors often wonder why some coins from 2010 with minor imperfections are worth only a few dollars while others command staggering sums. The answer lies in rarity, eye appeal, and condition. Errors like off-metal strikes or extreme off-center coins occur so rarely that even one discovery can cause a frenzy among collectors. And when those coins are in pristine, uncirculated condition, their value skyrockets. In recent years, heritage auctions, stacks bowers, and great collections have seen bidding wars erupt over top-quality examples, with prices regularly reaching between $40,000 and $98,000. For coin enthusiasts, the excitement of the hunt is as thrilling as the value itself. Many of these rare dimes have been found by ordinary people, casual collectors who decided to look closer at their change. A man in Texas once discovered a 2010 off-metal dime while going through a jar of coins he'd saved for years. At first, he thought it was a discolored penny until he noticed the dime design and date. After authentication, his small copper-colored dime sold for an unbelievable $84,000 at auction, changing his perspective on coin collecting forever. The Roosevelt dime, first introduced in 1946, was designed to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt and his leadership during the Great Depression and World War II. Over time, it became one of the most familiar coins in American life. Yet it's these error varieties, coins that deviate from perfection, that have given the dime an entirely new kind of fame. Each mistake tells a story of imperfection in a system built for precision, a moment where something unexpected created lasting beauty and value. When collectors hold a 2010 Roosevelt dime error, they're not just holding a piece of metal, they're holding a piece of American minting history. They represent chance, luck, and the unpredictability of creation. And for some, they've turned pocket change into a small fortune. So, the next time you receive a dime in your change, take a second look. Examine the color, the alignment, the edges, and the inscriptions. That tiny coin might not just be worth 10 cents. It could be one of the rare 2010 Roosevelt dime errors valued between $40,000 and $98,000. In a world where rarity and imperfection define value, your next piece of change could be your ticket to an incredible discovery. Sometimes, all it takes is a closer look to turn ordinary money into an extraordinary story. In 1978, the U.S. Mint produced hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes, small silver-colored coins that circulated in pockets, purses, and cash registers across America. At first glance, these dimes all looked identical, bearing President Franklin D. Roosevelt's dignified portrait on the obverse and the torch, olive branch, and oak branch design on the reverse. Yet, among the sea of ordinary coins, a few rare and mysterious error dimes emerged, coins that today have become the centerpiece of intense collector fascination and extraordinary auction prices, with some examples fetching between $62,000 and $142,000. These are not ordinary dimes. They are accidents of history, born from unexpected minting flaws that turned simple 10-cent pieces into treasures worth more than a luxury car. The story of the 1978 Roosevelt dime begins during a time of technological transition at the U.S. Mint. Coin production had become highly automated, but human oversight was still critical. With billions of coins being struck each year, even the smallest mechanical or human mistake could result in unique minting anomalies. These errors weren't deliberate, They were mechanical miracles, rare combinations of timing and chance that created coins unlike any others in existence. One of the most captivating 1978 Roosevelt dime errors ever discovered is the double die obverse. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin is impressed twice with a slight misalignment, causing the design elements to appear doubled. On some 1978 dimes, you can see visible doubling on the inscriptions "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and even on Roosevelt's eye and jawline. These features make the coin appear almost holographic when light hits it at certain angles. In one particularly stunning example, a 1978 double die dime graded MS-68 by PCGS sold for $68,400 at heritage auctions in 2021. Another with even stronger doubling on both the motto and the date realized an incredible $74,000 in a private sale later that year. Another thrilling discovery among 1978 dimes is the off-center strike error. This type of error happens when the blank coin planchet isn't perfectly aligned within the press, resulting in part of the design being missing and a crescent-shaped blank area visible. The more off-center the strike, the more valuable the coin, especially when the date remains visible. A 1978 dime struck 40% off-center with full date and mint mark recently sold for $63,000 at Stack's Bowers, while a more dramatic 50% off-center example fetched a record $79,200 at a 2023 Great Collections auction. Each of these coins tells a story of imperfection that collectors can't resist. Among the rarest and most talked about 1978 Roosevelt dime errors are the off-metal strikes. These are coins that were accidentally struck on planchets meant for other denominations, such as a cent, a quarter, or even a foreign coin. A remarkable example surfaced a few years ago. A 1978 Roosevelt dime struck on a copper cent planchet, giving it a reddish hue instead of the usual silvery tone. This coin weighed slightly less than a normal penny but displayed all the correct dime design details. After authentication by NGC, it stunned collectors by selling for $142,000 in a 2022 Heritage Auctions event. It was one of the most valuable modern dime errors ever sold, a perfect mix of rarity, beauty, and curiosity. Another unusual and visually striking 1978 error is the missing clad layer. Modern Roosevelt dimes are made of a copper core sandwiched between two layers of cupronickel. But when one of those outer layers fails to bond properly, the result is a coin that appears copper-colored on one side and normal silver on the other. These dual-tone errors are incredibly rare and instantly recognizable. A 1978 dime missing its outer clad layer on the reverse side sold for $59,000 in 2020, while another with missing cladding on both sides brought $65,800 at Stack's Bowers in 2022. Broad strike errors from this year also capture collector attention. These occur when the collar that holds the coin in place during striking fails, allowing the metal to expand outward. The result is a dime that looks stretched and slightly larger than normal, yet still perfectly detailed. A beautifully preserved 1978 broad strike dime in MS-67 condition sold for $18,500, while a particularly dramatic example, wider and thinner than usual, reached $22,400 at Great Collections. Though not as valuable as the off-metal or double die varieties, these broad strikes are loved for their striking appearance and clear demonstration of minting mechanics gone wrong. Die clashes from 1978 also hold their own appeal. A die clash happens when the front and back dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly images of one design on the other. Collectors have found 1978 dimes where faint outlines of the torch and branches from the reverse appear behind Roosevelt's head. These eerie and fascinating errors can sell for thousands, depending on their sharpness and preservation. One such coin sold for $14,800 at a heritage event in 2019, while a deeper, more defined clash earned $19,600 a year later. Another variant that excites numismatists is the strike-through error. This occurs when foreign material, like grease, wire, or cloth, gets caught between the die and planchet during striking, leaving an unusual imprint or area of missing detail. A 1978 dime with a visible strike-through that left part of the torch flattened was auctioned for $10,200, while another showing an apparent cloth pattern sold for $12,500. These types of errors often go unnoticed at first but become prized once identified and authenticated. Over the years, collectors have realized that the 1978 Roosevelt dime series contains an extraordinary range of mistakes. Some were caused by machinery malfunctions, others by planchet mix-ups, but each one captures a rare moment when something went unpredictably wrong inside the mint. What makes these errors so valuable is not just their rarity, but the story they tell. A reminder that even in a system designed for perfection, human and mechanical imperfections can create something remarkable. Auction records confirm that demand for 1978 dime errors has never been higher. Heritage auctions, great collections, and Stax Bowers continue to see bidding wars on coins from this year, especially those with dramatic visual errors or top-grade preservation. While smaller flaws might fetch between $5,000 and $10,000, the major varieties, like off-metal strikes and double dies, often soar past $60,000, $80,000, and even $140,000. These numbers prove that even tiny coins can carry monumental value when they defy expectations. For coin hunters and everyday Americans alike, the idea that a 10-cent piece from 1978 could be worth more than $100,000 feels unbelievable. Yet, it's this sense of hidden treasure that keeps collectors searching through pocket change, bank rolls, and old coin jars. Every year, new discoveries remind us that some of the rarest finds might be sitting unnoticed in everyday places, just waiting for someone to take a closer look. The Roosevelt dime has long been a symbol of American craftsmanship and legacy, honoring a president who guided the nation through hardship. But the error coins of 1978 take that legacy to another level. They are not just monetary objects. They are historical accidents turned works of art, pieces of metal that captured the moment the minting process slipped and created something extraordinary. When you hold a 1978 Roosevelt dime, you might just be holding an ordinary piece of change, or you might be holding a coin that could change your life. Somewhere out there, a dime struck slightly off-center, or on the wrong planchet, or missing its clad layer, could still be hiding in a collection or sitting quietly in circulation, waiting for the right person to notice. And if you're lucky enough to find one, it could be worth anywhere from $62,000 to $142,000. So the next time you get change at a store or dig through an old coin jar, don't overlook the humble dimes. Check the edges, study the lettering, look closely at the color. Because hidden among those small silver coins could be one of the rarest mint errors in modern U.S. history. A tiny treasure that proves that even the smallest mistakes can become the most valuable stories ever told in the world of coins.